Good afternoon. This is Jason from Better Capital Club. Today we have a very special guest, Abe Sharma. How are you doing today, Abe?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you? Thanks for the opportunity to be on your platform.
Doing great. Happy New Year. Super excited to talk to you today. You and I have known each other for a very long time, but the audience doesn't. Would you mind just giving us a quick 15-minute introduction of who you are?
For sure. I'm currently working as a real estate professional. My real role is really to be a broker and help people find multifamily deals, generally that produce over 10% return on capital. And also just look forward to building sustainable partnerships with other brokers, investors, lenders, and insurance agents. So that's really it.
Oh, that's fantastic. You and I have known each other for a long time. We know each other's deals, but our audience doesn't. But they're gonna have a real treat today going over, and learning about your experiences. Would you like to kind of walk us through how you got started in your first big deal?
For sure. I mean, for me, I grew up in India. Real estate, I learned the importance of real estate when I moved from India to the US. And I first started in real estate in 2009. It was a single family home. And I remember it was a recession. And it was actually someone doing a flip, which means essentially someone bought a property that they were going to improve and try to sell for more. In this case, this is a property in Sacramento. I can show you a quick picture of it. And essentially, what they were trying to do, it worked in my favor, but it took about 11 offers to get to this property, and ended up being a good property, which taught me how to rent, rent, create leases, because I started renting by the room, and eventually I was able to sell it for a really good return on it about 10 years later. So that's how I got started in real estate in a single family home. And then what ended up happening is I wanted to go bigger and eventually got myself into a fourplex. But this was interesting because again, fourplex is in investment properties, and a lot of people are trying to just look for a return, a passive income through this. But for me, it was also just like learning. So I remember meeting the seller, Richard, who is, imagine a 75-year-old man who owns quite a bit of real estate in Sacramento, and we're a week from closing, and he says, "I would like another $15,000, otherwise he's gonna cancel the deal." And so my broker says that, it's time to walk away, like this guy's not being diligent. And then the same thing happens with the other guy, broker. So all the brokers are saying, run away. And then I'm like, you know what, can you just share me the contact information of the seller? And I call him and set up a lunch. So Richard and I just have Mexican food together, and we talk about everything but real estate for an hour. And
Wow.
then
Sorry, Abe. I think
yeah,
there's so much good stuff to unpack there. So were you already in escrow at this point before Richard kind of asked you for 15,000 more, or what was that process like?
for sure. I mean, everything was fairly new to me as well, because I was learning that investment income property requires having more diligence than just buying a single family home. So you do have your regular inspection stuff, but yeah, we were in escrow. It was about to close, in regular escrow, about 30 days in this case. And so we were about 23 days in, inspections had been done, the financing was all set. And, I had taken my little notebook because I was still starting out, and I would literally write down my own notes about each room, what I thought was wrong, what I thought was still needed to be done with the place. And that's what ended up being after our lunch. As it ended, I said to him, "Well, Richard, I know you've got a team of people. You've been doing this real estate stuff for over 30 years. Can you put down a really nice redwood fence, rebuild the whole driveway, redo the roof, and repaint the whole property?" And he pulls out his calculator and he punches some numbers, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do it." and that was it. And we shook hands, and he made that happen in a week. And him and I actually ended up becoming good friends. But really, the takeaway being each deal you can make your own by having these conversations, having these relationships. And he still calls me to this day with deals in Sacramento area.
So Abe, I know that that was almost 15 years ago, but can you break us down for our audience, how did you exactly negotiate the seller repairs? Because I know it's always a contention when you're in escrow and you want more from the seller. What was his mindset and what was your mindset and how did you find common ground?
Yeah, I think really in my case, it helped that I've been closely visiting the property, and I had this notebook where I was taking, it's a 4 unit property, and I was taking detailed notes on each property. And I was there for the inspection, walking every step of the way with the inspection. So I think it was a more hands-on approach that made sure I knew the property really well. And then also I had a pro forma, which is just really could be as simple as an Excel file where I was inputting these things of potential improvement that I would have to do in the next 5 years. I think armed with that information, when I sat down with Richard, and this is just more about me, when I treat people, I just treat them like human beings, even if it's a business meeting. And I think that goes well for me when I'm sitting across from him that, I'm just curious about him. Like I got to learn that, his faith was really important to him, and he even invited me to his church, which I ended up eventually going and checking out. And I think just treating him like a person and understanding his interests, like what he was doing with his real estate portfolio, and I think he also understood what it was important to me when I shared with him. So I think I part of the learning there is just like whenever you're in the property, making sure you get familiar with it, go with the inspectors, and really write down the list of things that are important to you. And if there is an opportunity to have conversation or put it in writing during the offer, then these are things that can be negotiated.
I think that's fantastic advice for our audience. Just, a lot of people want to automate real estate. They don't want to be there physically. They don't want to put in the hard work and to know every single inch of the properties. You do your due diligence. You put in the sweat equity, and you definitely knew what the property was worth, what needed repairs, and you were able to really communicate with the seller, Richard, and to come to understanding. And I really, really, really like how you made friends with Richards, because we always say that real estate is, first and foremost a people business. And you did exactly that. You got to know Richard and what he cared about, and your common grounds is. So kudos to you. Abe, thank you so much for being on Better Capital Club. Is there where can our audience find you?
For sure. I think the best way to reach me is my email and cell phone. I can share my cell phone out loud. It's 978-273-3952. And I'm sure it'll include that somewhere else as well that people can find it. And my email is asharma8080@gmail.com. And yeah, happy to help if someone has more questions about any of this, or they need just a soundboard to talk through a negotiation. Happy to discuss.